season of Advent. The history of the season of Advent kind of has a lot of mixed emotions around it. And we hear that in the readings that those who created our lectionary, even the Revised Common Lectionary that we're using, have really brought in for us to reflect upon throughout the season. Now, in the Middle Ages, this idea of Jesus is coming and it's not going to be pretty really took hold in the medieval imagination. And the theology that kind of grew out of a worldview, if you think about it, it makes sense that in the medieval times in Europe, and where this was really being cultivated, the quality of life for most people was very poor. Only the very top upper crust in society was very much laid out to look like a hierarchy of peoples. And in fact, when Thomas Aquinas creates his concept of God's cosmos, he puts angels in a hierarchical order as well, which is why we still have a little bit of residual. Sometimes you hear people talking about the differences between seraphim and cherubim, and oh, the archangels are best. So we still have a little bit of that lore left to us that comes up from time to time, but it was really meant to almost reflect and justify social hierarchy and, of course, church hierarchy. And one of the things going on was this idea that both Lent and Advent were seen as times in different ways of preparation. And in that time, the color purple, it was indicative of royalty, and it was a very precious color, and that was the time associated with both Lent and Advent. Now, fast forward, Protestant Revolution, emergence of the Church of England, and the cathedral at Salisbury, England, was also a town known for its rich dye work, and this color of blue, called cerum, which is derived from the Latin name for Salisbury, England, was particularly used in the cathedral there during the time of Advent, to separate it a little bit from the more penitential time associated with Lent. With the color of Advent being blue, it was intended to remind people of that kind of quality of light just before dawn, when the darkness starts to lighten up just a little bit, but the dawn hasn't come yet. So it's that sort of time of promise and reflection before the world gets busy. And taking that time, if you've ever done that, just get up early enough to wait for that sunset. That's the time of the feeling that it's trying to capture. And it's also associated, of course, with Our Lady Mary, the mother of Jesus, as sort of associated with that time of expectation and pregnancy and what's going to happen next. Because, again, in the first century and in the medieval period, childbirth was an extraordinarily dangerous time for the mother. And mortality rates for mothers and infants were extremely high. In fact, many families did not name their children until they had achieved 1 year old, so that the idea of not getting too attached, and how sad that is to live that year. And so this time of Advent incorporates all of the emotions of everything I've just said. What does it look like to really prepare for the idea that Jesus is going to have an inbreaking into our lives, whether it's our personal lives or into our world, into our nation? What does it feel like to be ready for something that could actually be risky? We don't know how it's going to turn out, whether that's that same idea of a pregnancy. And our best laid plans sometimes can go really wompy. And how do we prepare for that when the wompy might happen too? And if you've been paying attention in the news, we have this earthquake happening up in Alaska. And once again, Seattle on high alert. And our news anchors sitting there telling us to get your earthquake packages and preparedness kits ready. And my husband turned to me and looked at me and said, "Do you have your go bag?" And how much do we have in the pantry? What do we have? 3 weeks worth of food in the pantry. And I said, with all your Costco trips, we have 2 years in the pantry. So that kind of sense of what does it mean? And the prayer that we had this morning around lighting this first candle also talked about the theme of hope. So I think that brings to mind how all the ways that we try to prepare are actually informed by hope. As scary as it might be, the idea of making a go bag or getting your pantry ready or prepared for something awful to happen. There's some hope in that because we're doing it because we hope to survive. We hope to survive. We hope to help at least make things better for somebody, if not for ourselves. That we're trying to be prepared in the event of need. And so even though it's in the context of something kind of scary and something that means that a crisis may happen that creates dramatic change, that the reading that we have from the Gospel of Luke says, even though you might be in the midst of a very scary kind of time, and you're hearing kind of, wars and famine and devastation kind of happening or at risk, even in the midst, especially in the midst of those times, our call as people of faith is to prepare. That hope is actually a spiritual action and practice. And it takes our time and attention to do it. Hope isn't just sitting on the couch waiting for Jesus. Hope is an activity. It says, I'm hoping that whatever is happening in our world, that I would be a part of either helping to mitigate that impact or helping people who are affected by changes already that are seeming, really very dark in our social or national life. So how can we be part of making things better? Planning, seeing certain action happening that will cause damage or devastation in other people's lives. What can we be doing to prepare to respond to that? To get out from a reactive place of just waiting for it all to happen and getting into a proactive place of preparing to make it better. And making ourselves ready for that. And that's where God comes in. Advent is a time of reflecting on how God is asking us to be prepared. More specifically, how God is asking each of us, can I prepare you? God asked the question, how will we prepare together? Because Jesus isn't a far-off event that may come back someday. We have learned from the scope of history that Jesus is continually breaking into the world. It isn't a once and future event. It's allegorically used that way, out of the idea of preparation. But Jesus is constantly knocking on the doors of our hearts saying, I would like to come in. Knocking on the world saying, will you please let me in? Will you please hear my voice? Will you please understand that the green of the buds is there, but it needs your cultivation to make it to fruition? Will you be part of that proactive hoping that is so especially needed in times that seem so barren or threatening or dangerous? It's exactly in those times of darkness when we're asked to be people of the light, people waiting to be up in the darkness, seeking and hoping for the sunrise. Now, over the several Sundays of Advent, I'm going to share with you each time a little bit more of a story that I'll begin very briefly now. Back in 2015, the country of Nepal experienced a devastating earthquake, 8.1 on the Richter scale, 8.1. It killed over 8,000 people, and it left 22,000 people injured significantly. It made 3.1 million people homeless. It impacted as far away from Kathmandu to the Mount Everest Park. And hikers who were in the process of summiting Mount Everest, 21 people perished on Mount Everest because of the landslides that happened, the avalanches after. A man named Dan Mazer, who actually lives in Olympia, is a mountain climber and an expedition leader. And he works closely with the Mount Everest Foundation to help the Sherpa families that so many of the expedition leaders work with and rely upon for their expeditions to be successful. And Dan has taken a particular interest in the families in the village where his Sherpas come from, as well as other expedition leaders taking care of other Sherpa families in their villages. And where Dan has one is in the village where he's really invested is literally in the foothills, you can call them hills, of Mount Everest. You can see Mount Everest. It's right over there. It's like closer than our Mount Rainier to us. And it's an amazing skyline. But this village there has 500 people in it. The Sherpa families there that help him in his expeditions were also impacted by that earthquake. Of the old style buildings that were created, they're created out of mud and dirt. That's it. The bricks, mud, and dirt with a little bit of sand and mud as mortar. There was not a single structure in that village, which is essentially on the high elevation of a valley system, that wasn't affected. When there was a large aftershock, one of those structures collapsed, killing the family inside. The clinic and a school that Dan had helped create were also impacted and made dangerous by the cracks so that children could no longer meet in the school, and the clinic was inoperative. So he began to put together a series of what he called service treks. And after the earthquake in 2015 of April, that fall, he had his first service trek to bring people in, to help bring all new supplies, to help bring the things necessary to repair a gravity well system, and to bring back solar sheeting and things that they needed for electricity. Because it's remote, it has none of those things. It's hard to get anything up in there. You're hiking and traveling kilometers, miles to get to these remote places. And so when I saw him, that he was doing his first service trek, I said to myself, I want to go on one of those. I want to go on one of those. But it wasn't until the following year, 2016, in that spring, when I turned to my husband and I simply announced to him, I'm going to Nepal and hike in the Himalayas. And he just kind of said, yeah, right, that's so nice. And he just didn't believe that. Until June, when I said, you're going to need to drive me up to Vancouver, Canada next week, because I'm going to Nepal. And I'll be sharing you that story. But like Evan, you'll have to wait.